Welcome, everyone. We continue with our contemplative consideration of the rules of thought as we are opening to the energies of Scorpio. In this time, after the full moon of Scorpio, we're reminded by Master Dwal Kul that the sixth ray of devotion is most powerful in this age or cycle, and hence the expression in every land today of its best and its worst features, of which the intense devotion to material things and the intense devotion to spiritual values are dramatic instances. He goes on further to say that Scorpio is also most interestingly connected with the constellation Cancer through the influences of the sixth ray, for it should be remembered that that ray is also expressing itself through Neptune, but in a spiritual and esoteric manner. So we are definitely at that point that we know the humanity as a whole is in battle, the dweller on the threshold and the angel of the presence. So let's hold that notion as we move forward together today and explore the rules of thought. Before we begin in earnest, we'll look again at this teaching from Esoteric Psychology, Volume 1, related to the source of inspiration, the monad. The monad, which is the energy that we invoke as we invoke the technique of the presence, and the three rays of will, love, and intelligence producing appearance, with love donating quality, that aspect, the second aspect, and then through the life principle, underlying aspect of unity ensures continuity of growth. So let us pause at this point and consider the will of God, as we're told that this growth will continue and this continuity of growth will continue until such time as that will of God is evidenced as power, has attracted to itself the desired, and has with wisdom utilized the experience of a gradually growing satisfaction, and has intelligently applied the gain of experience to the production of forms more sensitive, more beautiful, and more fully expressive of the quality of the life. So let us breathe into, with the spirit of purpose, the rays of attribute. The fourth ray's will to harmonize. The fifth ray's will to act. The sixth ray's will to cause. The seventh ray's will to express. Together with all of the group present and those joining us from the other side of the veil, and those who will join us by listening to this recording, that for us, we seek the production of forms more sensitive, more beautiful, and more fully expressive of the quality of the life, that we might together actuate the will to evolve into the will to good. So we sound the mantra of the will. In the center of the will of God we stand. Naught shall deflect our will from God's will. We implement that will by love. We stand as parts of the great triangle divine and work out that will within the square to serve humanity. Having stepped onto the path of discipleship, and in Leo learned the power to do and to dare, in terms of this sixth ray, Mars and Scorpio, what qualities have you noted are being received in your impressions in group service and in daily life? The qualities that are being donated as the incoming energies are felt, sensed, heard, seen, experienced. As you reflect on the point of crisis for humanity, the conscious warring of the dualities in Scorpio. You may have found the established sixth ray qualities: devotion, single-mindedness, love, tenderness, intuition, loyalty, reverence, the power to do and to dare. The incoming fourth ray qualities: strong affections, sympathy, physical courage, generosity, devotion, quickness of intellect and perception. The incoming qualities of the fourth ray: harmony through conflict. You may have noted what is being brought into concrete manifestation as seventh ray qualities: strength, perseverance, self-reliance, courage, courtesy, extreme care in details. We hold these qualities in our service for the advancement of humanity in the conscious warring of the dualities. Ben.
From our group dialogue and sharing, we listen. Touch. See. Apply. We always combine these three aspects: will, love, intelligence, Atma, Buddhi, Manas. We are not just working on one or on the other. From the simplest to the highest level, the three always belong together. And to find the balance point, not to emphasize too much on the dominant aspect in our being without integrating the solar aspect in our being, as we endeavor to know, as we breathe into the spiritual triad through the abstract mind and capture a glimpse of the intuition in the interlude, which then, as if in the out-breath, goes out into the world of experience to illumine what we are able to know.
There are so many qualities, soul qualities, that are given in Master DK's writings, all relating to the development of the soul vehicle, the causal body, the egoic lotus. Are we then expressing an admixture of all the soul qualities of the group into the field of this exploration of the rules of thought? Are we developing a coherence, something new, synthesizing whole new things out of what we resonate together? Group love, compassion, tolerance, sympathy, service, wisdom, humility, and sacrifice into a developing synthesis. Preparing to draw down into our group service and group experiences the developing synthesis that is emerging and will emerge in this dawning of the Aquarian age as the beginning reflection of what will be eventually called the ashram of synthesis. Andrea.
From our group dialogue and sharing, we listen, touch, see, apply. Coherence, resonance, listening, and then expressing right speech. I was picturing things I've seen. A pile of iron fillings on the surface, and they apply a frequency to the surface. and the fillings form intricate geometric patterns. Remembering studies that demonstrate when you speak to water with anger as the tone, distortion occurs in the waves, and the water shows us that as a disruptive, agitated vibration. And then, when harmonious or pleasant sounds, as certain vibrations are introduced, the patterns change, and the water shows up as beauty in our minds. Lovely patterns of waves, as one tuning to the same or compatible frequency. We are tuning to each other. We are attuning to the higher, pure vibration.
Then that developing coherence can be expressed in service to humanity. We're reminded in looking at this great triangle of humanity, Leo, Scorpio, and Capricorn, that humanity is in this crisis, the crisis of consciousness of the warring dualities, discipleship in Scorpio. And the motto of this sign is silence. Ellen.
The problem of all disciples remains the same. This is to live simultaneously the acutely sensitive inner life of the pilgrim upon the path of life, and of a human being in the world of human events. To live the group life of the pledged disciple and the mass life of humanity. To fulfill his own spiritual destiny through the medium of a controlled personality, and at the same time to participate fully in the life of humanity upon the earth. This is no easy task.
And as we continue our exploration of the ideas and ideals and illusions that emerge as we live this life of duality, studying the rules of thought, we keep in mind the words for applicants: listen, touch, see, apply, know. And for disciples and initiatives, know, express, and today an emphasis on reveal. As we experiment, formulate an expectation that we breathe into the aspects of the will and the attributes of the will as we continue to experience together this warring duality of Scorpio and humanity as the world disciple. Initiation, we're told in one of DK's books, is a doorway of consciousness. And he goes on to say in Initiation, Human and Solar, that it is, in the last analysis, a reception of a series of revelations. So individually, as group, and as humanity, these initiations are bringing forth a series of revelations and changes in the state of consciousness.
From know and to reveal. What is this revelation? The word revelation is one that has been greatly misused by the mystics of the Church and of the great world religions. By them, its use is usually of a selfish nature, and the concept implied is that revelation is the due reward conceded to the mystic because of his struggles and his deep search for God. Then suddenly God is revealed to him. Suddenly the angel speaks. Suddenly his search seems ended, and a reward in form of revelation is accorded him. This procedure and sequence of events has been the ordinary form for centuries, and all the time the idea of God transcendent dominated religious thought. But the revelation accorded is, in reality, related until the sixth initiation to God immanent, to God in form, to God in the human heart, and to that veiled and hidden supreme reality which motivates all existence and which is forever consciousness aware of itself. Revelation is a progress of penetration, first into the mind, then into the heart, and lastly into the purpose of the one in whom we live and move and have our being. The agent of revelation is, for the first two initiations, the soul, and for that reason the first initiation is said to be, and with truth, the expression of the man's own inner divinity. This is the reason why these first two initiations are regarded as initiations of the threshold. It is here that the work of the Christ, or whoever is the cyclic head of the hierarchy, should be considered, working in cooperation with the soul of the initiate upon the plane of the soul, the mental plane. The Son of Mind is set free, and then the higher initiations become possible. After that, the one initiator can be faced or confronted step by step, and revelation is accorded of the world soul, of the planetary consciousness, that of which the soul or the individual consciousness is an integral part.
So this sets before us, in this series of ideas, ideals, and illusion, that we are progressing. And revelation is a progress of penetration, first into the mind, then into the heart. And the mind being the soul vehicle, also called the egoic lotus, and the causal body in this process of the rules of thought, helping us to merge the concrete and abstract mind, which then can lead us into the heart, which is the hierarchy, the spiritual triad, the heart of the planetary logos. And finally, into the purpose of the one in whom we live and move and have our being, which is that unity of the presence. Ellen?
After all the demarcations have been made, we inevitably arrive at the synthesis of the heart. We need not mention that silence arises from an intermingling of all the sounds. So let us learn to correlate the heart with silence. But this silence will not be a void. It will saturate space with the synthesis of thought. Just as a heartfelt prayer has no need of words, a saturated silence has no need of formulas. An intensified silence requires creation of many strata of thought, as well as many benevolent desires. So the heart, intensified by silence and full of energy like an electric generator, beats out the rhythm of the universe. And personal desires are transformed into the all-guiding universal will. That is how cooperation with the distant worlds develops.
So, in this sloka 68 from Heart in Agni Yoga, Master Morya gives a poetic translation of this progression, arriving at the synthesis of the heart, the ashram of synthesis, which is developing. This place of quiet, confident, regulated effort that we have spoken about in past sessions, where each knows their service and work. Each knows what is to be done in incarnation. But it requires the creation of many strata of thought, as well as many benevolent desires to reach that point.
We recognize our group and all other similar groups as parts of a worldwide spiritual movement, which, when it reaches momentum, results in unity for all. A super organization which emphasizes unity is the last thing to be desired. A multiplicity of living organisms held loosely together by cooperation, constant communication, and possessing identity of goal and of purpose is what the world needs today.
And so we sound the mantra, Om Mani Padme Om. Om, connecting us to purpose. Mani, the recognition of light in all. Padme, soul in all living beings. Om, the indivisibility of all. Om Mani Padme Om. And we lift our attention as high as possible, connecting to the planetary inlets, forming two triangles, interconnected triangles through New York, the second ray of love wisdom and the third ray of active intelligence. Connected in one triangle with London, the fifth ray of concrete silence and the seventh ray of organization, connecting around the world to sub-centers, inlets in Canada, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, connecting to Darjeeling, the second ray of love wisdom and the fifth ray of concrete silence. And the second ray with New York, Geneva, the first ray of will and power and the second ray of love wisdom, connecting to Tokyo, the sixth ray of idealism and devotion and the fourth ray of harmony through conflict. These spiritual inlets united and uniting this multiplicity of spiritual groups, and we together gather, lifting our groups in a new unity, embracing the highest intention, aligning with the incoming energies. We enter into a state of receptivity, meditating to awaken soul consciousness in humanity. For as we know, energy follows thought. We attune to the energies of the Scorpio full moon distribution to draw down the potent energies from the triangle of the Lord Buddha, the Lord of Light, the spirit of peace and equilibrium, and the avatar of synthesis. We see this triangle of synthesis streaming currents of dynamic force through the Lord Maitreya, the Bodhisattva, known as the Christ, to vitalize all world servers aspiring to assist in advancing the plan for humanity and meeting the immediate and emerging needs. In unity, let us envision the incoming ray energies merging and blending into and through the five spiritual inlets as we radiate the unfolding common good in all our service, in all our thoughts, in all our deeds, forever connected in this great matrix of interconnected triangles of light, love, and power.
We saturate the space with high thinking, with thoughts that lead to right living, based on just inclusion, compassionate comprehension of the immediate and urgent needs. Bringing the light of the soul, the qualities of love, wisdom, into unity with the concrete science of the lower mind, and the harmony that can resolve the conflicts through loving understanding and devotion to the truth that will advance the four freedoms: the freedom of speech, freedom of faith, freedom from want, freedom from fear, and bring forth a new freedom, freedom from violence and aggression, instilling freedom of choice as the principle of directed purpose in every nation. Into and through the five spiritual inlets, illuminating thought forms of solution to envelop all planetary life with soul light, love, wisdom, and the power to bring the five freedoms, equilibrium, peace, and harmony to all. May we hold the silence of the heart, uniting the five spiritual inlets.
As we seek to stand in spiritual being within the fire of mind. So let it be, and help us to do our part. From our group dialogue and sharing, we listen, touch, see, and apply. What keeps coming is listening, listening, listening. And it's not necessarily listening with your brain, it's listening with your heart. And recognizing that we all are one. The souls of all are one. Yet we incarnate into this lifetime as personalities under such a diversity of experience. An opportunity in crisis. And in that, at first, our words are our only way of distinguishing meaning. Because of that, there's a diversity of meaning. Often, the gulf in understanding is closed just in listening compassionately, particularly to those whose words may seem offensive, maybe words that are expressing something that doesn't seem to be the truth. And really, it's about listening and forgiveness and recognizing we are all at some point on that noble middle path, becoming impersonal, desireless in the listening, abstracting the higher meaning. The true understanding is, I realize, not possible for you, but can be gained by your effort to comprehend from the rays and the initiations. Reveal. Master DK points out that it is not his task to reveal the world of symbols. The five senses and the mind principle are adequate to bring that about. It is not the disciple's task to reveal the world of meaning. That the disciple arrives at and interprets as he develops soul consciousness. His is the task to reveal the world of significances, the world of reality, and of essential truth. Because of the success of the evolutionary process, this latter task is growing, and more initiated revealers, having taken the third and preparing for the fourth initiation, will be needed during the period immediately ahead, the Aquarian age. Forget not that the invocative appeal of the mass of men and the intelligent voicing of demand by those prepared intelligently to move forward will inevitably call forth the needed response and the needed revealers of reality.
So today in Scorpio, let's focus on 3 of the rules of thought. Catherine.
Rule 10. For thee, the aspirant on the way of life, the way of conscious building is not yet the goal. The work of cleaning out the atmosphere of thought, of barring fast the doors of thought to hate and pain, to fear and jealousy and low desire, must first precede the conscious work of building. See to thy aura, O traveler on the way. Rule 11. Watch close the gates of thought. Sentinel desire, cast out all fear, all hate, all greed, look out and up. Rule 12. Because the life is mostly centered on the plane of concrete life, thy words and speech will indicate thy thought. To these, pay close attention. And let us breathe into a group sharing, relating the rules of thought, centering ourselves to listen, touch, see, apply, No. As we together continue this process of looking at these rules of thought as part of our effort to integrate our knowledge, love, and sacrifice, looking at the ideas, the ideals, and the illusions that exist for us in the world of thought. Let us each find our point of balance, of equilibrium, individually as the observer, and stretch our minds to find that point in group formation. Finding a resonance with the current zodiacal sign, Scorpio. Tests, trials, triumph, and the dual mind. Wherever it is, a triple light, the light of day. Find that point in your own experience and as a group, family, community, nation, and service groups.
Frida.
For thee, the aspirant on the way of life, the way of conscious building is not yet the goal. The work of cleaning out the atmosphere of thoughts, of barring fast the doors of thoughts to hate and pain, to fear and jealousy and low desire, must first precede the conscious work of building. See to thy aura, O traveler on the way.
So as we use the words of Roberto Saggioli, we do this. We see to our aura, we look at the aura, the health aura, the physical etheric aura, we look at the emotional aura and the mental aura, knowing that we are not the body, not the emotions, not the mind. For as this rule tells us, the work of cleaning out the atmosphere of thought is required. And then barring fast the doors, one of the most important tests of Scorpio, the tests and the trials, and that this must be accomplished before we can proceed with the conscious work of building. Andrea.
From group dialogue and sharing, we listen, touch, see. Some days, when the world events are seemingly blasted over the airwaves, and we are surrounded by those who are totally focused on the duality, working out as Maya, glamour, and illusion. It's kind of like we are watching a really good bad movie. And I mean, it's life. So that's where I was focused this morning, wondering if we have to watch it all the way to the end before we understand it, who the good guys and the bad guys are. So I was being very simplistic and then had to go off to work. Apply. By an act of the creative imagination, the worker endeavors to see and hear the soul, the source of light and power in the three worlds, breathing out the Om into the mind of the attentive, waiting personality. There, the light and power of the soul is retained and held by the positive personality, for a negative attitude is not desirable.
Points from our group dialogue and sharing. Before leaving the silence of reorienting to the task of the day or the moment, sound the words of Roberto Assagioli that he gave to us in his act of will. I have a body, I am not my body. I have emotions, I am not my emotions. I have a mind, I am not my mind. I am the soul. I am light divine. I am love. I am will. I am fixed design. We hold the intention then that is grounded in our values and virtues. With our contemplation and deep deliberation, then with humility and sincerity, sounding the affirmation, we then engage the mind in planning, looking out, and in cyclic review, monitoring the progress we make towards the goal, whatever that may be. Catherine.
In using the act of will, which best reflects your point of tension? Focused, immovable will. 1. There is the dynamic will as it is expressed by first-ray egos or souls. 2. There is the inclusive radiatory will of second-ray souls. 3. There is the magnetic will of the third-ray soul, which draws, attracts, manipulates, and arranges in accordance with divine purpose. This is not the same kind of magnetism as that of love from discipleship in the New Age.
So as we work in groups, we find these different aspects of the will. And through group and soul work is group work, we harness, in a way, this will. And then as a group, establish a new point of tension that is in relation to the presence. For the presence embodies, brings through the monadic presence into soul consciousness. And we can activate that triangle in group formation. The dynamic will, the inclusive radiatory will, and the magnetic will.
Om Bhuva Swaha Tatsavitu Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimai Yo Yona Prachodayat
From our group dialogue and sharing, and I want to express my deep gratitude for all who have participated in the sharing that's then integrated into this recording. In Sanskrit, in the Gayatri, it's Om Tat Sattva, meaning Brahma, the supreme reality, the one about whom naught may be said. So we become clear that God is not this and God is not that. In the teaching of Tibetan Buddhism, God is the that, as opposed to everything. What we see and know is the this, the things, the you and the me and you. And the chair that we're sitting on is the this, the thing, and everything is the this. And then there's the that, the absolute. As the Gayatri says, O thou who givest sustenance to the universe, from whom all things proceed and to whom all things return, unveil to us the face of the true spiritual sun, hidden by a disk of golden light, that we may know the truth and do our whole duty as we journey to thy sacred feet. Haika.
Hercules. Today I stand before you trebly free, free from my early teachers, free from the fear of fear, and free indeed from all desire. The teacher, boast not, my son, but prove to me the nature of this freedom which you sense. Again, in Leo, will you meet the lion? What will you do? Again, in Gemini, the teachers whom you slew will cross your path. Have you indeed left them behind? What will you do? Again, in Scorpio, will you wrestle with desire? Will you stand free, or will the serpent meet you with his wiles and pull you down to earth? What will you do? Prepare to prove your words and liberty. Boast not, my son, but prove to me your freedom and your deep desire to serve.
We pause in silence. Gather your thoughts. Gather your impressions. How are you standing in Scorpio in the light of day?
Points from group members sharing. From Alice Bailey's Labors of Hercules. In Scorpio, the nine-headed Hydra, representing the three aspects of the threefold personality, Maya of the physical plane, sex, comfort, money, glamours of the astral plane, glamours of fear, hate, ambition, and illusion of the lower mind, illusions of pride, separateness, and cruelty, can be suppressed, or as in the Scorpio labor, those heads can't be killed. They have to be lifted into the light of the soul with humility so that Maya, glamours, and illusion dissolve in the light and the personality be transformed. Most fascinating is, in Bailey's presentation of the labors, the immortal head. While the other 9 heads wither away, the immortal head stays and still stirs. It symbolizes the glamour of spiritual pride, the illusion of the separated self, or the will of the lower mind, under the illusion of separateness. Hercules buries the immortal head under a rock. This represents the personality, especially the illusion of the lower mind, being held in place by the light of the soul and subordinated to the higher mind and will. It is the awareness of the soul being able to hold the remnants of the personality. And it is the divine will, the monadic aspect, the immovable will. This means also that the personality is not destroyed or dissolved, but is brought into right relation with soul and divine will. In esoteric astrology, this rock also can be associated with the fixed cross, of which Scorpio is a part, which the soul anchors in steadfast purpose. This steadfastness is tested in Scorpio. It is the point of immovable spiritual will. When the will of the personality is anchored in the will of the soul, the disciple stands as a rock in a weary land. Then can he lift humanity with him.
Consider where we are. Consider where each of us are in relation to freeing ourselves from the influence of Maya, glamour, and illusion. Consider the immortal head, the fused personality and soul, climbing onto the fixed cross, the axis of Taurus and Scorpio, and the steadfastness required to be tested in all of our groups to stand with steadfastness. And as group, anchor the highest will into the fused will of personality and soul. So let us contemplate the soul in relation to thought. Ben.
Only the soul has a direct and clear understanding of the creative purpose and of the plan. Only the soul, whose nature is intelligent love, can be trusted with the knowledge, the symbols and the formulas which are necessary to the correct conditioning of the magical work. Only the soul has power to work in all three worlds at once, and yet remain detached, and therefore karmically free from the results of such work. Only the soul is truly group conscious and actuated by pure, unselfish purpose. Only the soul, with the open eye of vision, can see the ending from the beginning, and can hold in steadiness the true picture of the ultimate consummation.
We ask you to continue to pause in silence in the coming week as the observer and notice your thoughts and bring in your impressions of the soul in relation to thought. We'll gather these in our next meeting together. So we watch close the gates of thought, sentinel desire, and cast out all fear, all hate, all greed, and we then look out and up. And in our session on Monday, as we continue in the integration of the three techniques, the technique of indifference, the technique of light, and the technique of the presence, we will gather from the group that meets how we cast out all fear, all hate, all greed, all sentinel desire, that we can then, as group, look out and up. Andrea.
As we listen, touch, see, apply, let us sound the protective formula. As a soul, I work in light and touch the forehead. And darkness cannot touch me, touch the chest. I take my stand within the light, touching the left eye. I work, and from that point I never move, touching the right eye. The sign of the cross of divinity. What does this signify? We are told, so applicable to the fixed cross and the axis of Taurus and Scorpio, It is the great symbol of light and of consciousness, signifying the vertical light and the horizontal light, the power of attraction and the power of radiation, soul life and service.
Because the life is mostly centered on the plane of concrete life, thy words and speech will indicate thy thought. To these, pay close attention. The illumination of the soul must pour into the mind and is then reflected, like a searchlight, onto the astral plane. And in our daily life, as we move through life, we bring our thoughts into alignment and align with the world serving group and use the mantra, may the power of the one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech. The triple actuation of our alignment with the new group of world servers, the one world serving group. We pay close attention to words and speech, indicating our thought. Heike.
Our group dialogue and sharing. We listen, touch, sing. We are the factors of coherence. We are functioning as souls with a higher mind. We are the ones able to express that coherence somehow. I don't know how, but whatever fields we are in, we can see congruence as a part of coherence. It's perhaps a step. The coherence is making something new, synthesizing whole new things out of what resonates together. Reading the words of the teachings, just reading with the mind, will give us understanding in a certain way, yet it's still illusion. As long as we cannot grasp the energy behind it, because words are just carrying something deeper, and the words limit, and so it is also feeling, sensing behind the outer appearance. If it's words, or if it's people, if it's group, a talk someone is giving, when you feel behind it or deeper into it, you don't just hear the outer words or reactions. And then you start to detect a certain kind of sound. It's not really sound. It's a vibration which carries much more. And right now, I'm on that way to find out to find out more about it. That's the path, to find this middle part, this in the midst location where the author thinks the words, the manners, the actions are just little tiny emanations going outside from the real inside, which is much, much more real and richer. So to get a sensibility for that, I think that is getting a sensibility for group and the quality of the group sound.
Again, deep gratitude to those who have shared these ideas that have come, the impressions that have come through this group consideration of the rules of thought. A bit of an introduction to the next sharing offered in this exploration of thought. Sometimes called the Foundations of Modern Philosophy, a group member suggested looking at some of Descartes' writings from 1634 to 1647. The formal definition of thought in the meditations that he wrote offers some sense of the breadth of his definition of thought as any conscious mental act. In one of the meditations, he, end quote, a thing that thinks. What is it? It is a thing that doubts, understands, affirms, denies, is willing, is unwilling, and also imagines, and has sensory perceptions. Thought is a word that covers everything that exists in us in such a way that we are immediately conscious of it. Thus, all of the operations of will, intellect, imagination, and the sense are thoughts. Descartes says in this meditation. I say immediately so as to exclude the consequences of thoughts, which he defines as a voluntary movement, for example, originate in a thought, but it is not itself a thought. Some of my thoughts are, as it were, the images of things, and it is only in these cases that the term idea is strictly appropriate. Other thoughts have various additional forms. Thus, when I will or am afraid or affirm or deny, there's always a particular thing which I take as the object of my thought. But my thought includes something more than the likeness of that think. Some thoughts in this category are called volitions or emotions, which others are called judgments. So with that kind of overview, we have a wonderful contribution, and all of the contributions are wonderful. But this, for those who have studied philosophy, may be useful for you.
So let us listen, touch, see, apply, to clarify, reflect, and understand as best we can. Descartes is addressing the search for knowledge and starts with doubt and the importance of doubt for exploring knowledge when seeking truth. From there he finds the thinker, the entity that doubts. The thinker is the essence, the essential requirement of existence. Hence Descartes' famous maxim in shortened form, I think, therefore I am. The thinker exists and has doubts, imagination, will or volition, memory, and other features of the mental body. We recognize the thinker through consciousness, the awareness that connects us to these features of the mental body, including perceptions of the senses. The thinker is not the originator of thought. Thought is a stream from the mind of God. The thinker can participate in that stream or not, depending on consciousness. Humans also collect information and put information into categories or patterns using the same brain apparatus that can register thought. Thoughts can lead to consequences. The consequences are not the thought, but the extension of thought into manifestation or action. For example, kicking a ball is not the same as thinking about kicking a ball. The thinker, the thought, and the consequences are related, but they are different parts of a process. All this sheds light on the process of thought form building, which is the prerogative of the soul consciousness in connection with the mind of God.
Together, as we listen, touch, see, apply to, in this case, clarify, and then reflect so that we can understand as best we can Another sharing is from a posting on a Substack by Sean Higgins that brings into our thoughts this whole emergence of quantum thinking, quantum exploration. The universe is neither a mere thing nor a collection of objects scattered across empty space. It is a vast living being, so immense, so profound, that it extends far beyond the grasp of human comprehension. To study the laws of physics, therefore, is not to reduce the world to equations. It is to touch the edges of that immense awareness from which all things arise. This is Sean Higgins speaking. I have come to understand that we are not external to this grand field of existence. We are that very being made self-aware, fragments of its infinite mind realizing themselves through the veil, the illusion, of matter and form. When I first began to probe the foundations of matter, I believed, as most physicists do, that beneath the atom lay an objective order and architecture of forces independent of perception. Yet the deeper I delved, the more the illusion of separation dissolved. The quantum world revealed a truth both unsettling and transcendent, that the act of observation itself gives birth to reality. And you can find this and other Substack writings with the link. I think, therefore I am, also translated as I think, therefore I exist, related to the occult truism, energy follows thought. That ancient occult truism remains accurate, Master Dwalkul says in Education in the New Age. Consciousness is dependent upon its vehicle for expression, and both are dependent upon life and energy for existence. This remains an immutable law. So let us remember Master DK's words from Initiation Human and Solar. To be conscious on a plane and to have control of that plane are two very different conditions. It becomes apparent how remote is the possibility of our approximating more than the general trend of the cosmic scheme. So, though we are conscious on the mental plane, the concrete, and even conscious on the abstract, does not mean that we have control in relation to the greater cosmic scheme. So, help us to understand the importance of humility and our purpose for developing group understanding of these subplanes and that which we are all integrating, and develop the humility that is essential and the tolerance, which is the first touch, we're told by DK, of Buddhic understanding with the greatest humility. Ellen, have you returned?
Yes, thank you. From group dialogue and sharing, some group members working with artificial intelligence and training AI, exploring the interface of emerging intelligence and human intelligence relationships, are engaged in a deep exploration of knowledge as a consequence of consciousness, shown forth as awareness. While using AI properly trained and managed, and are able to find ways to express the ideas that have been elusive, while still realizing that the expressions are part of the great illusion, and individually known and expressed through AI, HI, EI, but helping the individual come to a better understanding of their own thought form making processes, and are expanding the lexicon of thought forms we use to share our experience and understanding, and therefore relate to each other in new ways and with greater confidence. Thought forms developing as ideas in this emerging field. Thought process, mind meld, congruence, resonance, continuity of consciousness, clarity, coherence, influence and confluence, 0 point field, and neurodiversity. For some, their intention is building a social network of discovery, an emerging group service.
with all this that is developing in the field, let's review what we've frequently emphasized in terms of DK's statements. I cannot too strongly reiterate the constant necessity for you to think in terms of energies and forces, of lines of force and energy relationships, vibration, light, sound, color, rotation, spiralic movement of the fires, as we seek to stand in spiritual being within the fire of mind, particularly as we are exposed to new words, new thought forms that are growing and expanding and emerging, exploding into the field of human consciousness. The constant necessity for all of us to think in terms of energies and forces, the lines of force, and the energy relationships. In this theme of Scorpio, light, the light of day, as we lift the heads of the Hydra into the light of day. From the multiplicity of groups, all working to serve humanity and to awaken soul consciousness, one group's focus during the Scorpio full moon days of distribution surfaced this idea that has been circling, spiraling within the group's field as an impression gleaned by their listening, their touch in meditation, and as a group seeing an impression that was then formulated by this receiving in-person group as a thought form that then they would apply in meditation along this line of alignment from the energies of Sirius to Scorpio and Uranus, and then the sun, through the triangle of the avatar of synthesis, Shambhala, and hierarchy, and into the group field. So in listening to their expression of their collective thought from their receptivity, we attempt to touch what they are attempting to state under the impression of Shambhala and the incoming ideas from the council chamber of the Lord of the world. They noted hierarchy is meditating, preparing on that high impress from the conclave to receive and transmit, and they open all of us to a new perception of plan as purpose from hierarchy through and into disciples and initiates, what may begin to appear as thought forms that come as ideas of a new directed purpose, a new plan emerging that will bring a fundamental reorientation of humanity, creating order out of chaos. In the incoming Aquarian age. So let us touch this idea and thought form that they articulate for all of us and see in a potent visualization the energy is moving into and through the 5 spiritual inlets as light, as love, wisdom, as a new vitalization into the multiplicity of serving groups in the great network of triangles, all the beacons of light around the globe, receiving the millions of points of light, receiving this new directed purpose. To apply in service.
The light that shines within the heart of man discovers light, and in these blended lights comes revelation. The light that shines within the sacred hierarchy of souls discovers these 2 lights revealed, and they reveal a third, the revelation of the higher states of being, which hide and veil a light which is not of planetary creation. These are 4 lights, which reveal a light supreme, a light which comes from distances beyond the ken of man. Yet all these lights have been revealed because a light has burned, immovable, secure, within the human heart. The whole theme of revelation is the revelation of light, and that implies many different interpretations of the word light. It concerns the discovery of the lighted areas of being, which otherwise remain unknown and therefore hidden. We create light. We employ light. We discover greater lights which serve to reveal to us the unknown God. It is the guiding light within us which eventually reveals those brighter lights which usher in the process of revelation.
Ideas are sensed in the interplay among disciples. Frequently, when disciples meet together and thus stimulate each other's minds and centralize each other's focused attention, they can unitedly make a contact with the world of ideas which would otherwise be impossible, and bring through the newer concepts into being. Again, certain great ideas are to be found existing as currents of energy upon the mental plane, and there be contacted and forced into embodiment through the trained attention of disciples. These currents of mental energy, colored by a basic idea, are placed there by the hierarchy. When thus contacted and discovered, the neophyte is apt to regard his achievement in a personal way and attribute the idea to his own wisdom and power. You will note, therefore, the great need for right understanding of that which is contacted, as well as for right interpretation. On this cross of transmutation, this cross of light, we are at a great point of crisis with wider implications. For the first time in its history, humanity is beginning to mount the fixed cross of the disciple, thus reversing its progress on the circle of the zodiac. One esoteric astrologer characterizes Mars in the natal chart as the action figure of the personality in relationship to and with the aspects and geometry of the chart, informing the incarnation. Mars is the dominating factor in the tests and trials of the disciple prior to the experience in Sagittarius and the initiation in Capricorn. What are your thoughts as you consider Mars as the action figure of your personality?
And we ask you each to consider this in the coming week before we meet again in relation to the rules of thought and in relation to your action figure. And simultaneously consider what this esoteric astrologer calls the action figure of the soul in your natal chart, which is Venus, in their interpretation. And just not in a heavy way, but in a way that is meaningful for you, consider how Mars is dominating in the tests and trials of the disciple prior to the experience in Sagittarius, which we will move into in the next cycle.
as Mars transmits the sixth ray. In relation to the sixth ray and the will to cause, a group member offered this teaching from Esoteric Healing, page 296, which can be applied to an individual, a group, a nation, and so on. The factor that is of importance is the causes, initiated by man from life to life. These work out in the appearance of disease, in the emergence of some disastrous consequence in circumstance and in event, and in the general conditioning of some particular incarnation. It is with these causes that man must learn to deal, to recognize them, and to trace the conditioning energy to the appropriate effect, dealing primarily then with the task of negating the cause by the opposition of a trained will. Karma is not an inevitable, inescapable, and dire happening. It can be offset, but this offsetting, particularly where disease is concerned, will include 4 lines of activity. 1. Determining the nature of the cause and the area in consciousness where it originated. 2. Developing those qualities which are the polar opposite of the effective cause. 3. Practicing harmlessness so as to arrest the expression of the cause and to prevent any further implementing of the unfortunate condition. And 4. Taking the necessary physical steps which will produce the conditions which the soul desires.
So as you consider Mars in your chart, you may also want to consider what we know of nations in relation to the rays of the nations and the positive qualities, or what we may view as positive qualities of the sixth ray in relation to a nation or a group that has a dominant sixth ray astral emotional body, a nation that has a dominant sixth ray personality. And then as you look at these 4 lines of activity, consider the way in which the qualities can affect these lines of activity in dealing with the disease, the active Maya within a group or a nation. So just consider that and we'll share in our next meeting.
As we move forward into Scorpio and begin our entry into Sagittarius, we will incorporate into our contemplation of the rules of thought, the rules of action. 1. It is essential that there should be an endeavor to arrive at absolute purity of motive. 2. The ability to enter the silence of the high places will follow next. The stilling of the mind depends upon the law of rhythm. If you are vibrating in many directions and registering thoughts from all sides, this law will be unable to touch you. Balance and poise must be restored before equilibrium can be reached. The law of vibration and the study of atomic substance are closely intertwined. When more is known about these atoms and their action, reaction, and interaction, Then people will control their bodies scientifically, synchronizing the laws of vibration and of rhythm. The silence that comes from the inner calm is the one to cultivate. 3. Remember always that lack of calm in the daily life prevents the teachers on egoic levels from reaching you. Endeavor, therefore, to remain quiescent as life unrolls. Work, toil, strive, aspire, and hold the inner calm. Withdraw steadily into interior work and so cultivate a responsiveness with the higher planes. A perfect steadiness of inner poise is what the masters need in those whom they seek to use. And 4, learn to control thought. It is necessary to guard what you think. These are days when the race as a whole is becoming sensitive and telepathic and responsive to thought interplay. Thought has, therefore, to be carefully guarded. Scorpio, as the sign of discipleship, the world disciple, under the influence of Sirius. 6 words for disciples. 1, recollection, resulting in concentration. 2, response, resulting in an interaction between higher and lower. 3, radiation, resulting in a sounding forth. 4, respiration, resulting in creative work. 5, reunion, resulting in the at-one-ment. 6, reorientation, resulting in a clear vision of the plan. We listen, touch, see, apply, know, express.
A group of disciples must be distinguished, as I already told you, by pure reason, which will steadily supersede motive, merging eventually into the will aspect of the monad, its major aspect. It is, technically speaking, Shambhala in direct relation with humanity. What, therefore, is the group will in any ashram or master's group? Is it present in any form vital enough to condition the group relations and to unite all into a band of brothers, moving forward into the light? Is the spiritual will of the individual personalities of such strength that it negates the personality relation and leads to spiritual recognition, spiritual interplay, and spiritual relation? It is only in consideration of these fundamental effects of standing as a group in the head of clear light that it is permissible for a disciple to bring into the picture personal sensitivities of thought, and this only because of a group temporary limitation.
Again, I would like to acknowledge in this group the ideas that have been shared and then voiced by another in the group as the way in which we are developing this field in which We are bringing personal sensitivities of thought through this group temporary limitation to build our spiritual recognition, spiritual interplay, and spiritual relation. Gratitude to you all for your contributions. And I hope that as you listen to your ideas then being read and voiced by another group member, you're beginning to sense the solidification, the cohesion, the coherence that we're building together for this recognition, interplay, and relation.
Into the light we move, beckoned thereto by thee. Out of the dark we come, driven thereto by the soul of all. Up from the earth we spring, and into the ocean of light we plunge. Together we come, together we move, guided and led by the soul. We serve, and by thee, the Master, we know. The Master within and the Master without are one. That one are we. The one is all. My soul, thy soul, the Master and the soul of all.